welcome back to Good Shepherd New York Kids. I'm so excited to be here with you, and I'm excited that we get to share this time together. So, let us start it off right and sing a good old classic, a cappella style. Going back to my Church of Christ roots, we're going to sing this one a cappella. Now you should know it, so sing along. Are you ready? Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. Little ones to him belong. They are weak, but he is strong. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. The Bible tells me so. That was fun. Now, friends, we are going to head over to Mrs. Gabriela with the craft time. Now, if you'd like to follow along with our craft but don't have the materials with you right now, no worries. Pause the video in just a second, and in the description of this YouTube video, there's a link to all of the materials and instructions. So once you get that all ready to go, hit play and join Mrs. Gabriela in the craft. All right, we'll see you in a minute.
Crafting time with Miss Gabriela, and today I have prepared a very fun craft for us. We're going to be creating characters from the great family story. The materials for today are going to be a marker, Sharpie, some 4 pieces of paper, something like cardstock is great, and then we're going to be using assorted colors of clay. As always, I would like to ask, are we ready for this? Let's start. So we have laid our cardstock pieces of paper with the names Abraham, Sarah, Isaac, and Rebekah. So we are going to start creating Abraham and Sarah. And as part of the story, let me give you a hint if you're not familiar with it. They are old by now. This couple is old. So let's start with building Abraham and Sarah. So basically I am going to be doing very simple shapes, and as in our past lessons, is very much a bodice, the length of the bodice, right? And I'm choosing blue clay for this. So now we have our characters ready for us to add some details like the eyes and the lips. So we can do that with very little clay, a very tiny amount, roll it and start creating the face that we desire. So these are the characters that we have created, and after the initial rolling of creating the bodies and creating the heads, then I added some details to the characters in order to give them more life and individuality. We have created the characters of the great family, and now feel free to share with your family and your friends. As always, I would like to remind you that you are deeply loved. Take care.
So, today our story is about the great family. Alright, let's begin. So today our story takes place in the desert. Now, obviously this isn't the desert, and I can't go to the desert because I don't have a car and the subway doesn't take me to the desert. So let's imagine the desert with our imaginations. Think of lots of sand and no water. And sometimes when the wind blows, the sand hits against your skin and it hurts. But then at night, Brr. It gets really cold because the desert with no sun is a really cold place. But then when the sun comes back out, oh, it's really hot. Oh, and the sun's rays go against you and it's so hot. Yeah. Woo! I'm glad I'm not in the desert because the desert's kind of a dangerous place, wouldn't you think? Well, that's where our story takes place. Now, when the flood went away, the great flood with Noah, once the flood receded and the waters went back, animals went to the four directions of the earth, people started appearing again, and small villages and cities started showing up. One of these cities was called Ur. Now in Ur, people believed in many gods. There was a god for every rock or flower. There was a god of the sky, a god of the clouds, a god of the tree, a god of the other tree, a god of the other tree. There were a lot of gods in Ur, a city filled with as many gods as you could see. But then, there was one family that believed there was God, just one, in every place and everything. Whoa. Now, Abram and Sarai were part of this family, and even though that's what they believed, they did not yet know that this is true. So whenever it was time to move to a new place, they knew they had to leave, but they weren't sure if God was also going to be in that city as well. Now, Abram and Sarai walked toward a city called Haran with their donkeys, their children, helpers, people old and young all came with them. And they walked and walked and walked, and they even walked along a river called the Euphrates, which is kind of a silly name. Euphrates. Yeah, Euphrates. And they walked along this river, and that river was great because it gave their animals a place to drink. They slept by it at night. And after walking for a long time, Abram and Sarah started meeting people coming out of Haran, and they knew that they were close to their destination. Now, sometimes at night, Abram would walk out to the edge of their camp and look out into the desert. And when he would do that, he would come so close to God, and God would come so close to him. And when they were so close together, Abram knew what God wanted him to do. God wanted them to move again to a new place. God said to them, "I will make of you a great family. I will bless you, and you will be a blessing." Now, Abram and Sarai did what God said, and they walked west of Haran towards a place called Canaan. But this time there was no river to guide their journey, so they walked with all their helpers and their sheep and their donkeys, and they made it all the way there. And there was a place called Shechem. Now in Shechem, Abram went to the top of a hill and prayed to God. And God was there. And because God was there on that hill, Abram built an altar, took a big stone, and set it up to mark that spot to show that God was there. Then they kept walking towards Canaan and came to a place called Bethel. And at this place, Abram prayed again, and God was also there. So Abram put another altar up to show that God was there too. All of God was everywhere. So they made it all the way to Hebron and made their home near the oaks of Mamre. One night, Abram went outside, and God brought him out there. Now, Abram came so close to God, and God came so close to Abram, that Abram could hear what God was saying. God told him, "You will become the father of a great family, and Sarai will be the mother. The members of the great family will be as many as there are stars in the sky, and grains of sand in the desert." Abram laughed because he and Sarai were kind of old. Now God's promise sounded impossible, but God said to change their names anyway. So Abram was to be Abraham, and Sarai was to be Sarah. One day, 3 strangers came out of the desert. Abraham invited them into his tent. Sarah gave them 3 measures of flour, which is a lot in those days. She also gave them bread and milk to eat and drink and other things. And then these 3 strangers told Abraham and Sarah that they were going to have a son. Abraham and Sarah laughed again because they were very old. Now the 3 strangers went their way. And you know what happened? Abraham and Sarah had a boy. They laughed and laughed again, so they named their son Laughter, which in their language, the word for laughter is Isaac. Now when the boy had grown old, Sarah, his mother, who was full of many years, died, and she was buried near the oaks of Mamre. Now, Abraham was lonely. He missed Sarah. So, he had one more thing to do. He sent one of his helpers off into town to find a wife for Isaac. Abraham's helper stopped by a well to get some water, and a young woman named Rebekah offered to help him get some water for himself and for the animals. She was as full of courage as she was kindness. Now, she invited the helper to meet her family. Now, Abraham's helper told her also about Abraham and Sarah and Isaac and their great family, and Rebekah decided that she wanted to be a part of the great family. So her and Abraham's helper went back towards Shechem and Bethel and Hebron. And when Isaac saw them coming from a distance, he went out to meet them. And then Isaac and Rebekah got married. Now, old Abraham was full of many years and was very old. And he died. And he was buried in the same cave with his wife, Sarah. And then Isaac and Rebekah had children. And then their children had children. And then their children had children. And so on until your grandparents had your parents, who then had you. Because we're all a part of this great family, which has become as many as the stars in the sky and the grains of sand in the desert. Now, I wonder, what part of this story did you like best? I wonder, what part is most important? I wonder where in the story, or what part of the story, is about you. I wonder if there's any part of the story we could take out and still have all the story we need. Well, friends, thank you so much for letting me tell the story of the great family to you. It's been so much fun getting to tell you stories. I hope to do it again soon. But just remember, you are deeply loved.